Hi, I'm Ellen Devine Hair on Instagram. I'm a Sam via ArTeam member and a full-time stylist behind the chair. We're gonna focus on short hair cutting today. And this haircut is inspired from a client of mine that I had. She came in, hair to her waist, and I lifted the top layer off and the hole underneath was really short to about the neckline. So what we did was just combine it into a pixie / wolf cut, a little bit of mullet action. I've seen it floating around the internet as the name the mod 60s cut. And some people are just calling it a wolf cut. One thing I want to point out, there's a lot of names of haircuts these days, and rather than resist it as stylists, we should welcome it, because what it does is really just help us identify the shape of the haircut that your client's looking for. So if I have someone come in and ask for a wolf cut, I'm able to pull up multiple different types of haircuts within the wolf cut realm, so we can look at pictures and really identify what they're looking for. So with that being said, let's jump right into the sectioning. So we're starting off with a previously cut mannequin, and she's got a lot of layers in there. They have a lot of texture already, but this haircut, we want a lot of texture and much shorter with a little bit of a mullet twist, if you will. So it's truly gonna be short haircut, pixie if you wanna call it that. But I really wanna focus on an easy way to section out the hair, just so that we have no fear when cutting short hair. I know when I first started cutting short hair, I would get really nervous because I wasn't sure where to start when I actually was cutting the hair from long to short. So we're just gonna do a classic sectioning with a little twist, and it'll just help guide you and learn the shape of the head and the appropriate way to section if you're double guessing yourself. So we're always gonna start with the center part, just splitting the head from left to right. Okay, so now that we have our center part in, we're gonna go ahead and just find where the highest point of the head is and go ahead and pop in our side area. So that's right where the comb balances. Right where it balances, that's gonna be the highest point of the head. We're gonna draw a vertical line from the high point just to the top of the ear. So as we draw our lines, I'm not gonna clip it quite yet. We're gonna clip it up in a sec. I just like to keep it nice and wet so that we can just twist it out of the way and continue to section across the head. So now we wanna find the fringe area. An easy way to find the fringe area is just, we wanna find the natural fall. So where does the hair naturally wanna live? If you take the spine of your comb and lay it on the corner of the eye, as you rock up, right where that comb hits, that's where the head starts to slope. So that means all the hair in front of that point will fall forward, which will give you the perfect fringe section, because we know our guests won't be fighting that hair. It's always gonna wanna come forward, hence why we call it natural falling position. Now what we need to do is we're gonna find the side areas of the head, and the simplest way to do that is to once again use your comb as a measurement. We're gonna lay that comb flat on the side. So right where that comb lifts off the head, I'll place my finger behind, but watch, if we rock it, there's a flat spot right there, which indicates a change in direction. So we're gonna go ahead and take our section right there, but what we're gonna change about it, if you've seen videos of me in the past, you know I like a zigzag section. So we're gonna just do a small zigzag section using that widest point of our long cutting comb. And the reason we're doing a zigzag section is it's just gonna give a little bit more texture and dimension. So you wanna make sure that you have a lot of peaks and a lot of valleys when you do a zigzag section, just to give a little bit of extra texture. Just gonna twist this up. I'll add it to the opposite side. We're gonna twist it up and out of the way. Now that we have the side area, we're gonna continue this zigzag all the way down, and I'm gonna just continue that across the entire top of the head, splitting the head from top to bottom, continuing those zigzag sections. Now remember, if you ended on a valley, you wanna continue up with a peak. As I get to the crown area, I might make these a little bit more dramatic. They don't have to be perfect, but you do want a good amount of peaks and valleys. Okay, so you can see we have our zigzag parting, just separating the top and crown from the bottom sections. We just want to keep that vertical line that we popped in so that we can separate the side area from that back and nape area. And we'll just take our clips and pop them up vertical. So we're gonna start in the nape and back area. You can see we have our center part. Now we're just going to divide this in half and get the rest out of the way. Now this is gonna be very tendrily at the bottom, very shattered. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take this entire section, combing straight up. I'm using the fine teeth of my comb. I'm gonna get all the grains of the hair nice and smooth. Just pawing at the section. Now we're gonna lock in our finger position to be horizontal, and I'm gonna float about to the top of the crown area, and we're just going to cut a horizontal line. I'm using the Artist Series shears for this. They're one of my favorite pairs of shears to work with. Super lightweight, and they just fit in my hand really nice. But what I want you to see as we drop this is you're gonna get layers short to long while leaving length. It's gonna leave a lot of length to start, and that's good because we want a little bit of hair to play with. The end result will most likely be a little bit long to the neckline, but you can choose, just detail it on how your client wants it. Now, something else to keep in mind is where do you want the top to be? Do you want it to sit right on top of that layer? As I look at it, I feel we could go a little bit shorter so we get a true disconnection. Meaning, if I want the top to be more pixie-like, that short hair needs to be longer, so the longest piece at the bottom of the section needs to be longer than the shortest piece of my section. So we want to take this shorter so there's a true disconnection. Hope that makes sense. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that section again, and I'm going to cut another inch off. Perfect. All right, so this is what I'm looking for. I want some shortness in there. Now moving to the next section. I'm picking a little piece of my previous, and I'm gonna elevate straight up. Now, I'm not scared of cutting any kind of hole around the ear. If you are, you could drop a section out so that you could detail that, okay? So if you wanna do your own detail work, I know I want the ears exposed, and it's pretty mullety. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that. This is what's fun about these types of haircuts. You really get to put your own spin and flair on it. And I really find that the details come in around the ear and around the hairline. Okay, now we'll pop to the next section, split in half. Get what you're using out of the way. Comb up towards the ceiling. Your finger position, which is how you're holding the hair, is gonna be within that section that you're combing up. So your finger position will be within that section. We're gonna lock in our fingers horizontally and float up to our guide, which is right there in my fingertips right there. So we're gonna float up to the guide, which is just a piece of hair from the opposite section, and cut a blunt line. Because the elevation is so high, you're left with all this length that we can play with and detail work with. Okay, last section for the back. Okay, so before we get any further, let's go ahead and knock some length off this. I'm gonna pull the razor out. We're gonna do some razor work with this cut too. You can absolutely use shears and razor for the same haircut. Now, if we wanna take more length off later, we can. I'm gonna start by leaving it just around the end of the mannequin or the base of the neck. We might go a little shorter. So I'm just gonna go in horizontally and get all that good texture. So cutting it about an inch above or a half inch above that neckline. What I like about these cuts and what inspired it is my client that had cut her hair off and what she was growing underneath sort of had this natural flip to it. And she already had all these layers from growing out something that was buzzed underneath and cut short and clippered short. So I really thought it was just super cute on her. And I was like, okay, I like the little flip that's happening. We both agreed to let the flip happen. So I'm cutting on top, surface cutting almost, taking that off, which is gonna cut these little short hairs on top, leaving a little bit of length on the bottom, lots of different lengths, but it'll just sort of encourage it to flip a little bit. Okay, so now we got our short disconnected pieces. We have our cute little flips at the bottom. And as we work through the section, if we decide we want to take more off, we can totally do that. But we're going to leave it for now and see how we feel after we detail around the ear and the front area. So now we're on the side section. So what we want to do is we want to make sure we always have our peak and our zigzag parting starting behind the hairline. We want to leave some hair to play with, okay? And we're still going to elevate straight up. If you want to leave a little extra hair to play with, you totally can. We're gonna actually slide past our guide just a bit. Doesn't have to blend because we're gonna kind of cut around the ear. And then I'm just gonna slightly over direct, okay? So I'm just twisting a little bit so I leave a little more length right there. But all this is disconnected. We're gonna have short bits in there and we're gonna start our framing at the cheek and above, but we have enough to sort of go low and detail with. So now that we have that cut, we're gonna do the opposite side and start in our crown and top area. We finished that, we're gonna go ahead and jump to the fringe and just knock all the perimeter out of the way. And then we can kind of start detailing around the front and see what we wanna do with that. Now, fringe, totally up to the guest. They can leave it shorter, they can leave it longer. We're gonna go in with a razor. I feel like we kind of want to go pretty short with this. It's just what I'm feeling. So we're going to take it a little shorter using our razor with the texture blade. Lately, I've really been into like a micro fringe or baby bangs. I don't know, I feel like fringe is really the self-expression that clients have. And I've had a lot of my personal guests get a little bit braver with cutting a fringe lately, whether it's halfway up the head or getting fringe for the first time. So this is truly something at this point where I find clients say, what do you think? You know, they want my opinion, but also it's really what they're comfortable with. So since I'm the boss today and I'm making all the decisions, we're gonna start with a pretty short fringe. So I'm just gonna take a little piece from the center and we're gonna cut our shortest piece to start. And I'm going to pinch that section and just detail cut with my razor. The touch of the razor that I have right now is so light. It's a very light touch. So we are not going extremely hard with it. It's a very light touch. And we're gonna start pretty short with it and we'll get progressively longer as we frame the face. Just section by section, peeling away. This is gonna be the true artistry that you kind of have where you can freehand and really just choose. But we're gonna peel and just go down with it as we go, just to frame the face. Very short strokes that we're doing and very light touch. If you balayage hair or color hair, think of when you balayage hair, the really light touch that you have. Keeping it one length to start, and then we're gonna go through and add a little bit of more texture on the top half, like so. So here's our long section. Take that out, and we're just gonna start in the middle and just peel away a little at a time. So now we're getting some short pieces mixed with some long pieces. It's just gonna give a little bit more dimension in that fringe area. And we'll continue on the other side. Now that you've done the detail work of the fringe, same thing for our side area. This is really up to you to determine how much length you want. Now, And a lot of these haircuts, they're pretty tuckable. So what I like to do is just go along the hairline here and get my short pieces I want and leave a little bit of length until we dry it and just see if I'm vibing with it or if we want to tuck it or what's the plan of attack. So when I'm cutting fringe with a razor, same thing. I'm just going to pull everything forward, do a very light touch, and do a lot of short internal pieces. The one key thing I have learned is I don't need to blend everything. And I need to remind myself that does not have to happen for a haircut to be cohesive. In fact, sometimes the less you blend, the better the result can look. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes I can try and make things a little too perfect. But when it's a razor, and when you're really trying to get this piecey look, perfection happens in the subtlest stroke. So a lot of times something will sit perfectly for you the less you think about it. And it's really just carving and enjoying the process as you go. So I'm liking where this is sitting. We're gonna pause there until we finish. But here's how that would look if it's just laying down covering the ear. But like I said, in this look, a lot of people are wearing it tucked completely and pulling these forward. This might be a little long, but let's go ahead and just wait till it's dry. There's nothing wrong with adding to the hair once it's dry, not so much adding, but taking away from the hair once it's dry. So we're gonna do the other side and then we'll move on to the crown and top. Okay, so now we're gonna go into the crown area. We're just gonna go ahead and clip down our sections all around horizontally so we don't pick any of our hair underneath because we want it to remain disconnected by choice. So we're gonna go ahead and drop that section, clip everything down, and we will just spray this down. I'm gonna drop the top section too. So this haircut's gonna be styled with no part. It'll most likely fall forward a bit. So we're gonna cut this, just cutting radial sections using our razor. And our first section will be directly in the center. And what we wanna do is we wanna take a vertical parting and we're gonna make sure that our piece of hair on the bottom of the section surpasses the length of our disconnection, just to start. So we're gonna just go to the middle there and continue all the way up that section when we're done. Okay, so there's the shortest piece right there. I'm just gonna go slightly beyond it and just leave a little bit of length to cover that. And we're gonna move up the head in sections. There's our guide. The razor will go towards the ceiling. And I'm just gonna peel away, cutting short to long. And something to keep in mind, when you are razor cutting, it's not gonna be matchy-matchy. You're gonna have a lot of texture in there, which is the point, and some long bits and some short bits. And that's all right. And I'm just gonna move the hair as I go along with it. Okay, so that's gonna be our shortest piece. And with texture, it'll probably be even a little bit shorter at times. So our next section will just be to the right or left of it. And we're just gonna work our way vertically around the head. I say radial, just working around the head. Now you can start at the top. Just like so. Lifting blade to the ceiling, cutting short to long. If you lose grip, you can just recomb and realign yourself. And we're just going to continue this all around the back area of the head. Okay, so now we've gotten to the top section. We're gonna do the same way of cutting with the razor, just peeling away, cutting short to long in vertical starting to radial sections till we reach the top of the ear. So I'm gonna start right in the center and move my way throughout the side. This is just the truly artistic part. You can do a longer stroke with your razor if you want a really loud texture or if they have very thick hair. If they have finer hair and you want a blunter edge, you can do a shorter stroke with the razor. What I like about this razor is it spins and twists, so I can just spin it at the angle that I want to cut at, including when I want the razor blade going up, so it's easier to cut on the top. Your guideline, or really your cutting line, which is an idea with a razor because there's going to be so many different lengths, is going to be right at that high point. And I'm just going to spill forward, cutting short to long, and working my way around. It's okay if I'm left with some longer bits. We will get them as we continue around the head. Sometimes I like to start in the middle and cut some of that middle weight out before I get to the end, just giving a lot of internal texture that will then cut to the length. So I'm cutting the interior before I get the actual length. Something else to keep in mind, there's a lot of clients out there that are anti-razor, and I have a couple thoughts on it. And I believe we need to make sure we are using a fresh blade every single client, every single time. Some clients have very coarse hair to where you will need to switch your blade multiple times in a haircut. So the second it starts grabbing or snagging at the hair and feeling slightly uncomfortable for our guests, that means it's time to switch that blade, or else use a different part. You can use the toe, you can use the heel. Make sure you're getting a different edge each time and use the full life of that blade. All right, so we are all finished with the top, and what we're gonna do is just put a little bit of product in. I'm just gonna put a little bit of curl enhancing gel. Even though I'm not looking for a curl, I just want texture in this. And I'm gonna keep everything going in the places I want, like forward on the hairline, forward on the top hair, and we're gonna go ahead and just take our diffuser to it and let the natural flips take over here. And that is it. Our haircut is complete. I think it's adorable. I love this haircut. It's giving shag, it's giving Carol Brady, Maud Pixie. We are going back a few decades with this type of haircut, but we're giving a fresh spin on it. So what's cool and unique about the trends that are happening today is we are combining so many different types of styles that we've seen throughout hair history, and we're just giving names to them. So if you get anything out of today, it's to challenge yourself to try something new. Maybe it's not your taste in hair cutting, but could you get some sectioning out of it? Could you get using a razor differently out of it? I would say grab a mannequin, follow along, challenge yourself to do a different type of haircut that might make you a little nervous, cutting off long to short, and just see what you might discover out of it. Don't forget to stay up to date and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can stay in touch with all of our brand new education. Follow me on Instagram at Devine Hair, and I'll see you next time.